Hi, my name is Claire Harrison. I'm the Managing Director of Harrison's. Welcome to this month's webinar, which is called HR on a Shoestring Budget, Hacks and Tips, which is going to be presented by Kelly Hallett, our Head of HR Team Service. But I'll just do a quick intro for you. Our disclaimer. So we're not lawyers. We're not giving you any legal advice, nor are we giving you any information that is specific to your situation or your organisation. So you can read through that disclaimer if you like. Just to talk a little bit about Harrison. So we were established in 2009, so about 15 years in the making. We have 4 core service areas. So the first one being consulting, which is anything from HR to workplace relations to work health and safety. We deal a lot with SME businesses, but also mid to large and government organisations. That could be anything from a compliance piece of work around your award and pay audit, employment contracts, policies, through to org restructures. It could be doing disc profiling, doing coaching, delivering training sessions, whatever it is that your organisation may need around HR, people and culture. Our second core service is HR Team. So HR Team we explain as being outsourced, insourced HR, predominantly suits a company that's about 30 to 300 employees, where they're starting to feel the headaches and the challenges that come with people, culture and a workforce, but have decided to outsource to Harrison's instead of hiring their own professional HR manager. The benefits that brings is you do get an allocated HR manager on site with you, but you also get access to a whole range of specialists across everything from work, health and safety, recruitment, employee relations. You also get a senior account manager who is allocated with you to develop the plan from the commencement, quarterly service reviews, and is always available should you need them. So that is our HR team service. Third is recruitment and onboarding. Predominantly, we recruit around professional roles in marketing, HR, finance and engineering, as well as manager and CEO, C-suite type positions. My HR Experts is our online subscription service, very much suited to a micro SME type business. It has loads and loads of resources, templates, tools, videos that you can use to run the HR function yourself, and just call upon Harrison's if you have any questions. That's a little bit about Harrison's and what we do. Each month we donate the proceeds of our webinars to a charity. This month the charity that we're supporting is Give It. So Give It, a local charity in Brisbane, but Give It help thousands of Australians in need every year by providing items, services and vouchers. Give It helps people impacted by natural disasters, domestic and family violence, homelessness, First Nations peoples, people living with disability or mental health issues, and many, many more people. So all of our proceeds will be going to Give It for today, but we really encourage you to get online, have a look at what Give It does and make your own donations, whether that's time or financially or in items that they may be seeking. That's a little about Give It. So what I'd like to do now is to hand over to Kelly to talk about this very interesting topic, I think, which is HR on a shoestring budget. And I suppose it's about using your imagination a little bit because there are all sorts of things that we could be doing to improve people culture, workforce, HR, your productivity, performance, culture of the organisation, and without spending lots of money. And I think it's easy for some of us to say we don't have the money to do all those exciting things and put slides in the office like what Google does. But there are so many other things that we can do to really help people and culture without that budget. So right now I'm going to hand over to Kelly Hallett.
Thanks, Claire. Hi, everyone. My name is Kelly Hallett, as Claire introduced, and I'm looking forward to sharing the topic with you today. We've got about 40 minutes all up for the webinar and quite a bit of ground to cover. So unfortunately, we won't have time for questions at the end as part of this webinar. However, if you would like to reach out to us afterwards, there is a slide at the end on how you can contact us to provide feedback or ask questions. We'd love to have a chat. In terms of the agenda for today, we're going to be talking about strategic engagement and some techniques to keep employees engaged with minimal financial outlay, some cost-effective retention strategies, learning how to retain your top talent without breaking the bank, innovative management practices, such as exploring creative and impactful ways to manage teams effectively within the constraints of your allocated budget, motivation on a budget. We're going to be exploring some practical tips for boosting employee motivation and productivity using non-monetary incentives. And finally, resource optimization, how to make the most of your existing tools and resources to meet your HR needs. So we'll start with strategic engagement. Keeping employees engaged doesn't necessarily require a large budget. Things like effective communication and regular feedback can significantly boost engagement and ultimately are free for the organisation. Implementing employee recognition programs, even simple ones, can make employees feel valued. Additionally, team building activities, which don't have to be costly, can foster a sense of camaraderie and promote teamwork within the business. Looking specifically at communication and feedback, open and transparent communication is key. One of the things that Harrison's assists clients with really commonly is an employee engagement survey. And almost every time the feedback that comes back is one of the opportunities or areas for improvement is communication. It's really important to employees, and it is really closely aligned to engagement. So things like regular one-on-one meetings, team meetings, and feedback sessions can help employees to feel like their voice is being heard and valued. And using simple tools that we already have access to, like email, instant messaging, and survey tools to maintain an ongoing dialogue, gathering the feedback, and then most importantly, taking actions, putting an action plan in place to address that feedback. Digging a little bit deeper into employee recognition programs, these come in all shapes and sizes across organisations, and it's really important that it is a fit for purpose for your organisation. There's no point looking at, as Claire mentioned, at a Google or an Amazon and trying to carbon copy what they do. It needs to be right for you, and therefore it doesn't necessarily need to be ultra expensive. Recognition doesn't have to be costly. Simple gestures like thank you notes, shout outs in meetings, or employee of the month can make employees feel appreciated. Online platforms, so if you have an existing HRIS, many of them have built-in recognition shout outs that you can utilize, or otherwise you can look at some more of the cost-effective systems that are out there if online is the way to go to recognise and reward your employees. Team building activities. So engaging in team building activities, it doesn't necessarily need to be a weekend retreat or anywhere too expensive or lavish. Activities such as virtual games, if you have a remote workforce, group projects, or even local community service events can really foster teamwork and camaraderie and bring people together, which ultimately will lead to people feeling more engaged within the workplace. The key is to create opportunities for employees to connect and collaborate, no matter what forum or context that might be within. Next, we will discuss some cost-effective retention strategies. Retention has been a very hot topic amongst our clients over the last few years, particularly during and off the back of COVID, when we have been facing significant labour shortages. It's never been more important not only to attract and recruit good people, but to hang on to the ones that you've already got. So providing providing career development opportunities such as mentoring or online courses can be a really big driver to assisting in retaining your top talent. Flexible work arrangements are a really hot topic at the moment. We see that all the time when we're looking at doing recruitment roles for our clients. That can be remote work or flexible hours, and they really improve job satisfaction to the point where some employees are specifically targeting organisations that prioritise those things and often rank more importantly and as a greater priority than pay remuneration. Employee wellbeing programs, so focusing on both physical and mental health, is especially really important to the next generation coming through and can play a critical role in retention that doesn't necessarily have to come with significant financial investment. So when we talk about career development opportunities, that doesn't necessarily have to be expensive. You could look at providing access to online learning platforms, and there are a few different providers of those, Coursera or LinkedIn Learning, for example, but also encouraging employees to attend free webinars or industry events. Harrison's runs a webinar every month, which is really accessible. And we also post blog articles to LinkedIn and to our website, which are free to access and can be really informative in the people management and general leadership space. So you can find those really in any department or industry if you have a little look around. And implementing mentorship programs where senior employees guide and support junior staff, it can be really beneficial both ways. Sometimes it can be seen as a little bit of a chore by senior staff having to impart all of their wisdom onto someone more junior or new to the organisation. However, we have seen really great examples where the more tenured employees have actually picked up a lot of new tips and techniques from the person that they are ultimately mentoring. So it really is beneficial both ways. Digging a little bit deeper into the flexible work arrangements piece, we've seen this come in all different shapes and sizes with different clients. Recently, we were facilitating a workshop in a more regional part of Queensland in the manufacturing space, and they were saying, look, we can't do flexible work. We can't allow people to work from home. It just doesn't work for us because we're manufacturing, they're on site, they need to be here and they need to be here at the set times. And through that workshop, we identified that a very real potential for them would be to look at a 9-day fortnight, which is just a little bit of a different way of thinking about flexibility. And one of the attendees at that workshop had implemented something similar, and it was working really well for them. So just because, work from home, for example, might not work for you, that doesn't mean that you can't explore other alternative options. As I mentioned before, here at Harrison's, we offer recruitment services, and we've seen a significant difference in the volume and quality of candidates for fully and partially remote roles, because that has become increasingly important to candidates as they look for their next opportunity. Allowing remote work, flexible hours, or compressed work weeks can really improve job satisfaction and work-life balance. And these arrangements can be implemented with minimal cost while providing significant benefits in employee retention. We always recommend having an up-to-date work from home or flexibility policy if that is something that you're going to offer to your team, because that just helps you to ensure that you are implementing things in a way that is fair and consistent, but also aligned to the operational needs of your organisation and gives you greater agency over what that looks like longer term. Employee wellbeing programs are really essential these days for retention. It's become an expectation rather than a benefit for people who are spending most of their week at work. So promoting wellness by organising regular fitness challenges, mindfulness sessions, or providing resources for mental health support. And that could be things like partnering with local gyms or wellness centres who might offer your employees a discounted membership. And in many instances, that doesn't cost you anything at all. I understand that there can be pushback on wellness and wellbeing programs at work, but it's important for us as leaders and HR professionals to remember that you're never going to be able to capture and appeal to everyone. But if you're helping even a small group of employees, then it's definitely worth doing. I certainly wouldn't suggest leaving it off the table just because there's a little bit of ambiguity around what is it that people want. Having a look now at some more innovative management practices. So, empowering employees by giving them more responsibility and autonomy can lead to increased job satisfaction and productivity. That's something that we've known for a long time. And fostering a collaborative work environment encourages teamwork and innovation. We've covered that off already. So promoting a culture of continuous improvement where employees are encouraged to contribute their ideas can also lead to more efficient and effective processes. And it is really beneficial both for the employee to feel as though their suggestions are being heard, even if they don't necessarily get implemented, but acknowledging those and taking time to listen to them and acknowledge the value, but ultimately also for the organisation if those ideas are implemented and they may create some efficiency or improve a process or a service offering. And the best way to keep those ideas coming is to pause and listen when employees suggest them. Don't be too quick to shut them down. Empowering employees involves giving them the autonomy to make decisions and to take ownership of their work. And that can be achieved by delegating responsibilities, encouraging initiative. So when someone does come up with an idea, even if it's not necessarily the one that you would have suggested or gone with, encouraging and rewarding that behaviour. Hey, thanks so much for suggesting that. Thanks for speaking up. I appreciate it. So that we are rewarding those behaviours that we want to see more of throughout the team. And then, of course, providing the necessary tools and training so that we can give them that autonomy and we're not needing to sort of look over their shoulder as much as we would otherwise. Empowered employees are more engaged and more productive if they understand that at the end of the day they are responsible for the outcomes, their call, they're accountable. Looking at a collaborative work environment, fostering a culture of collaboration by encouraging teamwork and open communication. Again, communication comes up, can be done in a number of different ways. We've touched on a couple already, but there are a number of collaboration tools out there. Again, this is for your remote teams. It works really well, or teams that aren't necessarily all in the same place at the same time. You will have heard of Slack or Trello or Microsoft Teams. A lot of businesses already have the Microsoft suite of products in place. So making sure that you are utilising them, that you understand how they work and your team understands how they work to make sure that you are getting the most out of those. And regular team meetings and brainstorming sessions to enhance collaboration. That's not a meeting for the sake of a meeting. It should be really clear on what you're hoping to get out of that time. But if employees know that it is regular and consistent, then they know the right forum to bring up their suggestions, to raise any feedback or things that they want to discuss as a team. And that time can then be used really proactively rather than sort of, you see that and hear people complaining about, oh, I've got another meeting to go to that could be an email. You want it to be an innovative and brainstorming space. which ultimately contributes to a culture of continuous improvement. So the way that we encourage a continuous improvement culture is to allow employees to find better ways to do their work, but also to motivate them to proactively find better ways to do their work. So implementing suggestion boxes, regular process reviews, not necessarily, well, this is the way we've always done it. If someone brings something up, well, let's have a look at it. And small scale pilot projects can drive innovation and efficiency without significant financial investment. I read an article recently just talking about the different generations through work, and it was someone talking about that they had asked their grad, they were organising a workshop, and they'd asked their grad to bring them just 40 sheets of plain white paper. So the grad went off, came back, handed them the paper, and they felt it and it was warm. They said, why is this paper warm? And she said, oh, I just opened Word and clicked print on 40 copies of a blank sheet of paper. So they came out and she didn't have to sit there and manually count it. So that's just one example of really innovative thinking that might not necessarily occur to us at all. And motivation on a budget. So motivating employees doesn't necessarily require financial incentives. Of course, that's an important factor, always has been, always will be, but there are lots of studies out there that demonstrate that that's not the key driving factor for employees. And we often see it with our frontline managers and with clients who will sort of throw their hands out and say, oh, well, we can't afford to pay more because this business down the road is paying $2 an hour more, or this industry is offering these bonuses. But that can sometimes be a little bit of a diversion or a distraction, a way to shed accountability for employee motivation, because they've told us lots and lots of times that money isn't necessarily their key driver. And that's also something that we often see come up in exit interviews and engagement surveys. Non-monetary incentives like additional leave, which is a really popular one at the moment, flexible hours we've touched on, and opportunities for skill development can also be highly effective. Regular recognition and praise for a job well done, and providing clear career advancement opportunities can also motivate employees to perform at their best. So looking at some non-monetary incentives such as extra time off or purchasing annual leave, flexible working hours or opportunities for professional development. The perks can be adjusted to suit individual employee preferences and therefore are more meaningful and can be greater appreciated than money, because everyone will be motivated differently and by different things. And many of these things that we've just suggested are free to implement. And once you do that, in addition to motivating your existing workforce, that's something that you can add to your employee value proposition. You can advertise that externally when you are looking to recruit, and make sure everyone knows, if you've got something available, make sure everyone knows about it so that it is being accessed and is being utilised to its full potential. Praise costs you nothing, as we know and have heard on several occasions. Regular recognition and praise are powerful motivators, whether we like to admit it or not. Acknowledging employees' hard work in team meetings, company newsletters, or even through a simple thank you, whether that's a thank you note or a thank you at the end of the day, can really boost morale. It's easy as leaders and HR professionals to get so caught up in the busy day-to-day that we forget to pause and say something as simple as thank you, or I'm grateful for that, or I appreciate that. But to the person receiving it, it does make a really big difference. Again, there are recognition platforms as a more sort of techie and online way of offering recognition to your employees, like Kudos or Tap My Back is another one. But again, you can probably have a look at existing systems that you have in place, and we're going to touch on that in a moment, to see what recognition avenues there are there. And career advancement opportunities, career advancement, career development is varying levels of importance to different employees, and also becomes varying levels of important throughout their employment journey. So it may have been important at the start, but isn't now, or vice versa. So it's important to continue checking into that. Because it can be a significant motivator. Creating individual development plans, offering cross-training opportunities, and promoting from within wherever possible. Providing a clear path for growth shows employees that their contributions are valued and that their careers are taken seriously. If you have concerns that there might not be a career advancement opportunity for an employee within your organisation, it's still better to have that conversation than to steer clear of it. We had another client who had raised that and said, well, this person's already our general manager and there's nowhere else for them to go. And we workshopped potentially sitting down with that employee to work out, what is their 5-year plan? What do they want to do next in their career, even if that's not within your organisation? And at least then you can contribute to their growth and learning in any way you can, and in a way that's really transparent, so that if they do ultimately leave the organisation and achieve that promotion in another organisation, they're reflecting back to the time with you and saying, oh, I wouldn't have gotten here if it weren't for XYZ, rather than sort of hunting on the sly and you being blindsided by losing a key talent. Having a look now at resource optimization, that is utilising affordable technology solutions to automate and streamline many HR processes. So all of you will know full well how easy it is to get stuck into the administrative side of people management. It's unavoidable ultimately, but there are ways that we can optimize that administration piece so that we are spending our time doing more value add things. So the first thing that we will always say is to consider how you can utilize your existing technology. There are a number of affordable technology solutions out there to automate and streamline processes. Gusto and Bamboo HR for your payroll, benefits and performance management, but also any existing applicant tracking software, HRIS that you currently have in place, or using free or low-cost communication and project management tools like Zoom or Slack. Teams we've already spoken about. They can improve efficiency and collaboration. We often find when we go to support our clients with their process mapping that there are things in place that they're already paying for that are underutilised, that would save a lot of time. And we have got a little case study coming up in a moment, so we will do a bit of a deeper dive into that as well. Reviewing and streamlining your HR processes to eliminate inefficiencies. When we're busy, it can be really easy to just keep running and get stuck into the way that we've always done it because we know it works. And before too long, we may find that we're doing things that are duplications or that are redundant and don't actually need to be done anymore, but we're just so in the habit of doing them. So taking a step back periodically to have a look at your processes, identify inefficiencies, working out where we can reduce paperwork by going digital, and automate any tasks that are quite repetitive, because that's where we're going to get the greatest return, is by investing the time to look into those. This can save you time and ultimately reduced operational costs. The best way to do this is to conduct regular audits to identify and address any bottlenecks, and that might not necessarily be with a process, it might be with reporting lines or communication. Fully leveraging the tools that you already have is, again, one of the quickest wins that you can make in this space. Many software solutions offer additional features that may not be utilised. We often see this with applicant tracking systems, emails being sent manually that could be automated, talent pooling, that sort of thing, and providing training on existing tools to ensure that your team is using them to their fullest potential. When people leave, they often leave with a full head of knowledge. And when a new person starts, it's usually colleagues or other team members who are inducting, onboarding and training them. Whereas it can be really beneficial if you have a system in place to have an account manager or someone from your system provider coming in to provide more formal and up-to-date training to make sure that you are keeping up to speed with what the platform can offer. Moving on to a case study now. We recently partnered with a not-for-profit, this was just earlier this year, who were looking to centralise their recruitment function to increase the efficiency in that space. They had high recruitment numbers coming up, and they were wanting to plan for that. It had, as the organisation had grown, it had gotten to a point where a lot of the recruitment was being done site-based and therefore was really inconsistent. Frontline managers who were doing the recruitment were duplicating the work that the recruitment team in the corporate office were doing. So we supported them by, first of all, having a look at some process mapping and working out what the current process is, what the current state of play is. And that highlighted, as it often does, that different people are doing different things, and also that people within the same team aren't necessarily across what other people in the team are doing. So once we highlighted that, the first step was to really easily identify some steps that could be removed altogether, and then worked with what we were left with to try and create some greater efficiencies in that space. We utilised the systems that they already had in place, and also introduced a new system after completing a cost benefit analysis, which was a time in motion study on how long it took to do a particular task it was referencing in this case, versus the cost of introducing a new software system to address that. So some examples of things that we did in that space is that they already had the Microsoft suite of products. So we implemented Microsoft bookings for scheduling phone screens and interview times. And what we found by doing that is that there was a much higher pickup rate the first time you made a call to do a phone screen, rather than sort of trying multiple times and playing phone tag, because the person has selected their own time. It automatically goes into your calendar and you know what you're doing. And same for scheduling interviews. The person books it in, it notifies you and the manager, so you're not having to send separate follow-up emails and calendar invites. It's all automated. We also looked at activating automations in their existing ATS to remove administrative burden for the team. And that was things like notifying the hiring manager once the reference checks had been uploaded, for example, or the phone screen had been updated. They weren't having to go and attach that and email that separately. We could push it out through the system. That was functionality that the system already had. We didn't need to create or invent that, but it was just about taking the time to really explore it and fully utilize it. And updating the workflows as well in that ATS to remove bottlenecks and the pieces in the process where things were slowing down, which typically, as with most organisations, was around the uploading of compliance documents prior to that person being allowed to start. So that's just one example, but there are lots of different things that you can do, and it's something that we really often help clients with. So we've covered a lot there, and you're probably thinking, okay, but where do I start? Because there's lots of low-hanging fruit typically. So if we were to, there we go. give you sort of a quick takeaway for each of the areas that we have covered off today. Firstly, looking at strategic engagement, we would say to start by scheduling bi-weekly or monthly one-on-one meetings with each team member to discuss their progress, to listen to their concerns and provide constructive feedback. By doing that, you're fostering open communication, you're making employees feel valued, and you're helping to address any issues promptly, which will ultimately boost engagement. If they can rely on that meeting rhythm, they'll become more comfortable with using that communication platform with you. Retention strategies. So you could look at launching a mentorship program. So pairing senior employees with junior team members to provide guidance, support, and career development. That will not only help the mentees grow, but also fosters a sense of purpose and satisfaction amongst the mentors, strengthening the bonds within your organisation, and aiding in retention without costing you. Looking at your management practices, we would suggest starting by identifying specific areas where team members can make decisions independently, providing them with the necessary tools and training to make sure that they're set up for success, and clearly outlining the scope of their authority. And that empowerment leads to increased job satisfaction, innovation, and a more dynamic work environment. It frees up time for you. And again, it doesn't cost you anything. Looking at motivation, encouraging employees to recognise and appreciate their colleagues' efforts. So it doesn't necessarily always have to be from the manager to the employee. We want to create a culture of recognition, feedback, and motivation. So you might like to implement a structured program, such as a peer recognition wall in the office, or a virtual platform where employees can give shout outs to foster a positive work environment and increase the motivation within the team. And finally, the resource optimization. Review the tools and software that your organization currently uses, not only identifying where you can further optimize, which is really important, but you might find that you are paying for systems or resources that you're not using, and you may be able to cut those ones off so that you can reinvest that elsewhere or ultimately save some money. So that will help you to get the most out of your existing resources and enhance the efficiency in that space, particularly if you've got systems that do the same thing. So I'll pose a couple of questions to you now. If you can ask yourself, what are the key areas of people leadership that I would like to make a difference in? And then you can have a think about whether or not that, putting those things in place does need to be expensive or not. Are we utilizing our systems and technology efficiently? How can we better understand and tap into the drivers and motivators of our best performers and key talent? Because again, that comes back to spending time with your employees and asking them questions, which doesn't cost you anything. Are we getting the fundamentals right when it comes to employee engagement? So we don't need to be offering a car or a big bonus. Are we listening to our employees? Are we giving them feedback? Are we recognising their efforts? And how can leaders do better through coaching, nurturing, recognising and building positive, progressive and productive cultures within their organisation? Because ultimately it does start with us as leaders. We would love to help. There are a number of ways that Harrisons can assist with the topics that we've covered off today. First of all, we can provide a free one-to-one meeting template if it's not something that you've done before or you've done it but it hasn't been structured. There'll be an email address on the next page that you can email, and we'd be more than happy to share that with you as a starting point. We can conduct an employee engagement survey and action plan. And we could also potentially look at workflow optimization and using your existing or introducing some new low-cost tools. We have free and discounted monthly webinars similar to this one. And we often post informative blog posts and articles. If you're not already, be sure to follow us on LinkedIn so that you can see the hot and trending topics in HR there. So finally, I will leave you with this slide if you want to take down our number or that email address if you have any questions or you want to tap into that free template. There's also the link to our website there. We have a bunch of free tools available online for you to utilise. So our 40 minutes is up. I'll thank you all so much for taking the time to attend today. We look forward to hearing from you if you do decide to reach out. And if you're not already, make sure you follow us on LinkedIn. Thanks again. I am Kelly Hallett. Bye for now.